Ladies and gentlemen, Capital G here, back with Akiri, Fearless Voyager as our commander. Unlike a lot of the decks I've been doing on the channel in recent months, a lot of them they're just sort of musings. I put them out there I play them online once in a while, whereas Akiri is a deck I'm actively building in paper. Akiri, Fearless Voyager, coming in from Zendikar Resurgent. Boros Commander, white, red, and one generic, gives us a 3/3 core warrior. And it's interesting because it wants us to play equipment, but it also wants us to spread our attack amongst multiple players, ideally. So whenever you attack a player with one or more equipped creatures, draw a card. And by paying a white, you can unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So we can use our equipment not only to buff up our creatures and turn sideways and draw cards, but by keeping some extra white mana open, we can in fact protect some of the creatures on our board. Pretty cool. It's been a while since I've done a Boros deck, and we've gotten a lot of new toys. This includes cards up into Kaldheim, so let's have a closer look, shall we? Now, because this deck calls for a weird balance of equipment and creatures, cards like Ancestral Blade turn out to be really effective for us. For a white and a generic, this particular piece of equipment comes into play with a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Then you attach the blade to it, so it's a 2/2. As the blade itself provides the equipped creature +1/+1. Has an equip cost of 1, and that is something I've kind of zeroed in on. The vast majority of the equipment costs 1 or 0 to equip. But again, the nice thing here is we get the equipment and the creature. So I thought that was pretty nice. Of course, we're going to run some ramps, so the Arcane Signet will be here. Taps for both our colors. Bone Horde, Living Weapon. Interesting little ability, comes into play with a 0/0 black germ token. Then you attach the creature to it. Attach the equipment to the creature. This is when it comes into play, by the way. And then equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. And the equip cost is still pretty low at 2. Bone Splitter, +2/+0, equips for 1. The Boros Signet for ramp, of course. Civic Saber, this is almost another copy of Bone Splitter, really. When cast once equipped, an equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each of its colors. So if it's red or white, +1/+0. If it's both, +2/+0. The Conqueror's Flare is here. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, so it's a +2/+2. And as long, well, it could be +3/+3 with our germ tokens, in fact. So interesting little synergy there. And as long as the flail is attached to a creature, your opponents cannot cast spells during your turn. That way your opponents can't, say, respond to any of your removal. They can't respond to your attacks. Awesome card. There's a reason there's a bit of a price tag on this one. The Crystal Slipper. 2 mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and haste. And equips for only 1, so I thought a good fit here. Imperial Plate. This is a Boros deck that draws cards. So here's a piece of equipment that gives an equipped creature +1/+1 for each card in our hand. So yeah, +5, 6, 7, 8, 9, depending on how the game goes for us. Yeah, a sweet, sweet piece here. Gold Vein Pick. 2 mana for this particular piece of equipment. The equipped creature gets +1/+1. It costs 1 to equip. And whenever this deals combat damage to a player, we get a treasure. Heirloom Blade, this costs 3 to cast, 1 to equipped. Equipped creature gets +3/+1, so very aggressive stats there. And whenever equipped creature dies, we can reveal cards from the top of our library until we hit a creature card that shares a creature type. Put that card into your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So I mean, we've got soldiers, we've got warriors, we've got core, we've got dwarves. We've got quite the variety of creatures overall, really. So you never know what we can really get from this, but the ability to kind of put cards back into our hand if the board gets wiped, sure. Hero's Blade, we are running some legendaries other than our commander. So why not? So we're going to pay 2 to put this on the board. It's 4 to equip, but here's the thing. Equipped creature gets +3/+2, which is a really nice buff. And whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Hero's Blade to it for free. Lightning Greaves, we're not worried about targeting our stuff, so we can run the Lightning Greaves here. Equipped creature has haste and shroud and equipped for 0, which is super important because that makes it so much easier to keep mana open to keep our creatures on the board. Prismatic Lens, taps for the colorless or can filter mana colors. Scythe Claw, another example of living weapon. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, but whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So this is a great piece to help us drop life totals down. Shadowsphere. Honestly, Theros Beyond Death has been aging incredibly well. It's only been a year, but people are starting to realize just how good the set was and how many awesome tools we got for EDH in that set. Shadowsphere, of course, one such piece. 1 to cast, 2 to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, trample, and lifelink. Also, the activated ability you can use regardless if this is equipped to a creature or not. Pay 1 and permanent to your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Shuko. Of course, we're going to run Shuko here. 1 to cast, 0 to equip, and equipped creature gets +1/+0. Not a huge buff, but again, that 0 equip when we're trying to keep creatures on a board, perfect. Skull Clamp for those occasions where we can't keep our creatures on the board. The Sol Ring, of course, we need that little bit of ramp. Sunforger, we're playing Boros, we're running a Sunforger package. It's an awesome piece of equipment to begin with. Yes, it's 3 to equip, but the only time we're not really going to use this to defend our creatures. The only reason we're ever going to unattach Sunforger is to go get one of our instants or with mana cost 4 or less. Sword of Light and Shadow, protection from white and black. Well, the reason I'm running this one is because this lets us gain life and return creature cards from our graveyard to our hand, so it's a good way to recur any creatures that do somehow die. Sword of the Animist. Boros doesn't ramp very well. This helps a lot. Talisman of Conviction fixes our colors for us quite nicely. And Tenza Goro's Maul. So that is 3 to cast, 1 to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and if it's legendary, it's an additional +2/+2. If it's red, it has trample. Going on to creatures, of course we're running the original version of Akiri. As First Strike Vigilance, power equal to the number of artifacts we control. With 24 artifacts in the deck, yeah, it's going to have some power for us. Running the Alkum Warrior. Gives us a creature with trample. Yes, it's 6 mana for this creature, but it also takes up a land slot for us. We can always instead play this as Akum Thief. And that's a theme actually with this particular build. We're going to see a lot of our cards have a surprising amount of versatility. Apostle of Purifying Light. Here's an interesting ad. 2 mana for this 2/1 with protection from black. And for 2 mana we can exile a card from a graveyard. So it gives us a little bit of graveyard hate, gives us a little bit of black hosing. Why not? Armored Sky Hunter coming in from Commander Legends. 3/3 flying for 4 mana. Cat Knight. Whenever this attacks, we get to look at the top 6 cards of our library, and we can put an aura or equipment card from among them onto the battlefield. And if we manage to put a piece of equipment onto the battlefield this way, it attaches to a creature we control for free. Running Danatha Capuchin. 2/2, we're First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink, all of the keywords. For a low cost of 3 mana, Human Knight. And our equipment spells will cost us 1 less, so it reduces the cost of some of our equipment, as well as being a very effective board presence. Enlightened Aesthetic. 2 mana for this 1/1 Cat Monk. When this enters the battlefield, we may destroy target enchantment. So not only does this give us a creature that we can equip and protect, but it can also take an enchantment down as soon as it comes into the battlefield. Flutter Fox. This looks like limited fodder, this 2 mana fox. But as long as we control an artifact or enchantment, this has flying. So it's a 2/2 flyer, very aggressively costed. And hey, if our opponents just happen to be a little shy on the flying, well, we get to fly over and get some damage in. Running Gisela as our sort of bomb, 7 mana for this 5/5. We all know her quite well, but for those who have not been introduced yet, 5/5 flying for a strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double damage to that player or permanent instead. And if any source would deal damage to us or a permanent we control, we prevent half of that damage rounded up. The effect is quite lopsided. Yes, it's 7 mana for this creature, but she has been a staple in our format for a very long time and for a very good reason. Goblin Crater Maker. Here's some more of that versatility we're talking about. 2 mana, 2/2. At any point, we can choose to sacrifice this to deal 2 damage to a creature or destroy a colorless non-land permanent. Keep that in mind, colorless non-land permanent. So that means colorless creatures, such as Eldrazi, will fall to the Crater Maker. Artifacts, most artifacts, colorless ones, will fall to the Crater Maker. Godo Bandit Warlord. We're running Godo's Maul, so of course we're going to run Godo. Go get any equipment from our library, put it onto the battlefield. And whenever this attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai we control. And after this phase, there's an additional combat step. Combat phase, in fact. So Godo is the only creature on tap. I'm not running any other samurai. But still, if we manage to, give him indestructible, he can make both swings and deal a lot of damage to our opponents without any risk to us. Halvar, God of Battle, of course. We're going to run Halvar. Awesome new legend for white coming out of Kaldheim. White, and 2 for this 4/4 legendary god. Creatures that you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. Very sweet static ability. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach an aura equipment that's already attached to a creature to another creature you control. So that trigger is kind of awkward too, I have to admit. But still, just that first ability is what makes it worth running. And on top of that, like if we have equipment on the board, we'll cast them as a creature. If we have creatures on the board but we need more equipment, we can always cast them as Sword of the Realms. Equipped creature gets +2/0 and has Vigilance. And whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. And it's cheap to cast and cheap to equip. So very sweet. We don't even have to give the creature indestructible. If it's got a cool ETB and somebody board wipes, we'll take the creature back to our hand and recast it. Sure, why not? Running Iris, God of Victory. This isn't always a creature, but it's always going to give our creatures menace. And it also prevents all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures we control. So our creatures can freely attack and come home safe and sound. Jorkadeen. This 5 mana for this 5/4 with first strike. Also has a cool Metalcraft ability. Metalcraft is a static ability that relies on us having 3 or more artifacts in play. And in this case, creatures we control get +3/+0 as long as we control 3 or more artifacts. Okay, we're running ramp, we're running equipment. Guess what? Kalemne, Disciple of Iris, of course, is going to be here. I used to run her as a commander. Actually, my original deck tech for Kalemne is still up on the channel if you want to go back to that and see how much Boros has evolved since then. But 4 mana for this 3/3 with double strike and vigilance. Attacks and blocks all day for us, and whenever we cast a creature spell of converted mana cost 5 or greater, we get an experience counter. Admittedly, we don't have very many opportunities for this. But just having a huge double strike creature with vigilance makes it a worthwhile add for us here. Kazul. Kazul's Toll Collector, in fact. Red and 2 for this 3/2 Ogre Warrior. Very unique ability, and it's at common. This is a common. And it has a static ability 0. Attach target equipment you control to the Toll Collector. Activate this only at any time you could cast the sorcery. So yes, it's a sorcery speed activated ability, but we can activate this as many times as we want on a turn if, say, we have 6 pieces of equipment and no other creatures really. I think this is a really sweet add. Cole, the Forge Master. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, it comes back to its owner's hand. So yeah, so Coal's another way for us to defend our creatures and perhaps reuse some ETBs. Creature tokens we control that are equipped or enchanted get +1/+1. So yeah, it buffs our team too. Core Blade Master. 2 mana for this 1/1 with double strike, and equipped warriors you control have double strike. We've got a couple of warrior creatures, including our commander, so I figured why not run the Core Blade Master here. Krenko. Here's a sweet equipment target. 3 mana for this 1/2, but whenever Krenko 10 Street Kingpin attacks, we put a 1/1 counter on it and then create a number of 1/1 goblin creature tokens equal to Krenko's power. So he wants to attack, he gets stronger for attacking on its own. Throw some equipment on it, even stronger, and make lots and lots of gobbos. Mad Ratter, how's this for a hot ad? 4 mana for a 1/2, doesn't seem so great, but whenever you draw your second card each turn, aka whenever your commander is on the battlefield and you attack with an equipped creature, create 2 1/1 rat creature tokens. So we actually get the opportunity to go wide with some token creation with these last couple of cards. Shepherd of the Flock, here's that flexibility we're talking about. 2 mana for a 3/1. It's a human peasant, so not super exciting. However, we can send him on an adventure and cast Usher to Safety for a lowly white mana to return target permanent we control to its owner's hand. So something of ours gets targeted, we can save it and still have a 3/1 that we can cast whenever we need it. Skyhunter Skirmisher. It flies, has double strike, loves equipment. Makes perfect sense to me. SRAM, Senior Edificer. I love the new the old school white border frame for SRAM. I don't know, like the time spiral cards that they've picked so far for the time shifted sheet with the old borders have pretty much all been home runs, but some stand out more than others, such as SRAM, and today they had revealed Yawgmoth in the old school black border. Amazing. The card itself is pretty cool too. 2 mana, 2/2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. Stonehaven Outfitter. 2 mana, 2/2. Equipped creatures you control get +1/+1. And whenever an equipped creature you control dies, draw a card. So if we can't protect our creature for any reason, we can draw some cards from that. Swift Blade Vindicator, very aggressive. 1 red, 1 white, 1/1, double strike, vigilance, and trample. Lots of keywords. Throw some equipment on there to pump up the power. Have fun. Running Tesher, also a great way to get some of our creatures back if they die in the early game. Bring down Tesher. Ancestor's Apostle, 2/2 flyer for 4 mana, so it's a great piece to equip and swing with. But whenever we cast a historic spell, including our equipment, and we've got a couple of sagas as well, and legendaries, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. Heck, if we think we can get away with it, we can even let Akiri go to the graveyard and then bring her right back. Toolcraft Exemplar. 1 white for this 1/1 Dwarf Artificer, or is it a 1/1? At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control an artifact, Toolcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it also gains first strike. So yeah, 3/2 first strike for 1 mana. That's what we're looking at here. Teralf, God of Fury. A 5/4 of trample makes it an amazing and a very aggressively costed creature for us. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Teralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than a permanent. We don't have a lot of direct damage in this deck. However, let's say we have Teralf out and somebody throws down Blasphemous Act. Fun time for us because we don't have to be the source of the non-combat damage. Well, before we forget, Teralf's Hammer. I'm not a huge fan of Teralf's Hammer's activated ability. It's 2 mana to cast this as an equipment and 2 to equip. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 as long as it's legendary, so this wants to be on a legendary creature. Equipped creature has 2. Tap, unattach the hammer, deal 3 damage to any target, and then return the hammer to its owner's hand. Very situational. It's a lot of work to get that because it's 2 to cast, 2 to equip, and then 2 to unattach. So we're not. Chances are, if we're casting this as a hammer, we are not throwing it. We're going to try to equip it to one of our legends. One such legend, Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. 3 mana for this 3/2 from Dominaria. At the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, create a 3/1 red elemental token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. So not only can we make Valduk a huge beater, but they also throws in a few extra tokens to widen our attack. War Chanter Scald. 3 mana for this 2/3 whenever this becomes tapped. If it's enchanted or equipped, create a 2/1 red dwarf berserker creature token. So again, throw a piece of equipment, turn sideways, get more creatures. For our enchantments, Forging the Tyrite Sword. I recently, of course, did the video where I rated all of the sagas printed up to this point in time. And Forging the Tyrite Sword is actually very highly rated on that list. For white, a red, and 1 generic, chapters 1 and 2 lets us create treasure tokens. So especially if we get this in the early game. Let's say we drop this on turn 3. It brings us right up to turn 6 immediately. Chapter 3 also very useful. We get to search our library for Halvar, or for an equipment card, reveal it and put it into our hand. So this is 3 mana, generate 2 treasures that we can spend at our leisure, and 2 to our card. Fantastic. Sigarda's Aid is the other enchantment we're running because, hey, we're running equipment. We may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash, and whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under our control, we may attach it to target creature we control. Going on to instance with the Boros Charm. If you're running red and white, no reason not to run Boros Charm. It's always good. We can deal 4 damage to a player or planeswalker. We can have permanents we control gain indestructible until the end of turn. Or we can have a creature gain double strike until end of turn. All 3 modes incredibly useful. Crush Contraband, of course, exiles an artifact and an enchantment. It says choose one or both. Chances are we're always going to do both because there's way more enchantments running around now than there were even, like, say, 3-4 years ago. Homing Lightning. If our opponents happen to be running some sort of token deck, this is awesome for cleaning up that situation. Red, and 2. Deal 4 damage to target creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature. So, elf tokens, zap all of them. Bolt. Like I said, a lot of people are mixed on lightning bolts. We're gonna get, like, every game you draw lightning bolt, you're going to cast it. It's going to kill a creature. It's going to finish off a planeswalker. Or it might be your parting shot if a player knocks you out. You draw lightning bolt, you're casting it every game you draw it. Write down a red, a white, destroy target blocking creature, and creatures that were blocked by that creature this combat gain trample until end of turn. So somebody blocks, you say, doesn't matter. Shredded Sails. That theme of flexibility comes through again here. 1 red, 1 generic. Choose 1, destroy target artifact, or deal 4 damage to target creature with flying. We could also cycle the card for 2 mana. So in the very unlikely event that we don't need Shredded Sails, pick another card. Spikefield Hazard. Deal 1 damage to any target, generally Zulaport Cutthroat. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die, exile it instead. Perfect. Bye-bye, Zulaport Cutthroat. We never liked you anyways. Or we might get some key elves, since we're going to be seeing a lot more elves running around. You can also, of course, play this as Spikefield Cave. Alright, moving on. Almost forgot about Swords to Plowshares there, my apologies. Of course, we're going to run Swords to Plowshares. I chose not to run Path to Exile, although that's getting a sweet reprint too in Time Spiral. Over to our lands with Battlefield Forge. Of course, the Pain Land taps for our colors or taps for generic. The Boros Garrison taps for both our colors. Command Tower taps for our colors. Hunted Fengraf comes into play untapped, taps for generic mana. And we can pay 3 and 3 tap and sacrifice this to return a random creature from our graveyard to our hand. So if we need the recursion, we have it in the form of a land. 7 Mountains, 1 Naya Panorama. Comes into play untapped, and we can pull out one of our basic plains or mountains later on. Needle Spires, this enters the battlefield tapped. Taps for both our colors. And we can always pay 4 mana and turn this into a 2/1 red and white elemental creature of double strike. Running the Needle Verge Pathway, which we can play on its front-facing red side or its back-facing white side. Pillar Verge Pathway. Path of Ancestry enters the battlefield tapped. And of course, once we get to use this for mana, it taps for both of our colors. However, the mana spent to cast a creature spell that shares a type with our commander, we get to scry 1. Got a couple warriors, got a couple core, but it's really just for the color stability as well. 12 plains, 1 Sacred Foundry. Slayer Stronghold, target creature gaining +2/0 in vigilance and haste until end of turn. So lots of keywords. The 2/0, the vigilance is important because we want to swing out at 2-3 opponents at a time if we can. So if we have one creature that just happens to be staying back because of vigilance, sweet. Spectator Seating, bit of a money card from the Commander Legends, but hey, if you've got it, run it. Strip Mine. We don't like, actually, and I always use Maze of Ith as my example, but really, Maze of Ith doesn't bother us as much in this deck because, hey, our creature's still coming home. Nonetheless, we definitely want to knock out some key lands that our opponents control once in a blue moon, so we've got it. Tectonic Edge, my apologies, same deal. Temple of Triumph comes into play tap, gives us a scry. 1 Planeswalker, and that's Nahiri, Hair of the Ancients. And hey, for 4 mana, hey, gives us a +1 where we can create a core warrior token, and we can attach equipment to it. Sweet. -2 lets us look at the top 6 cards of our library, reveal a warrior or equipment from among them, and put it into our hand. So possible card draw. We're running it mostly for the +1. The -3 is not bad either. Deal damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipment we control. So, hey, use the -3, maybe zap something. Why not? We're using it mostly for the +1, but the -3 is also very useful for us. This is actually a creature, but somehow it fell into the sorcery pile. Angrif Shieldbreaker. So 1 red, 1 colorless for a 2/1 creature, Human Knight. But as a sorcery, we can cast it for 1 red to destroy target artifact. So it not only blows up an artifact, but we can cast it later as a creature if needed. And Mad Song Treachery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap the creature, it gains haste. So 5 mana is a little expensive for the effect, but it's also a land. So we have both those options. And that is what I've got so far for Akiri Fearless Voyager. I say so far because it's going to take a lot of experimenting to find the perfect balance of creatures and equipment and cards with multiple functions. But that's how you really give Boros the strength it needs to compete out there. Give it flexibility. Give it the ability to draw cards. Bring down all our opponents. Put pressure on everyone. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Akiri. You can always build Akiri instead as someone to attack 1 creature and just draw the 1 card at a time. You could do that too. But what's the fun in that? Let's swing down at everybody. Let them know we're out there, we mean business. We're probably going to draw some heat until our opponents start drawing combo pieces and they focus on each other again. Then we can just kind of go in and chip away. that's the game plan with Akiri, and that's the deck list for you. And I think the next one is going to be a revisit of an older deck tech. It's been a while since I've done a revisit, and it's an old favorite of mine that I've managed to keep up to date, and just make that a little bit more refined. So with that in mind, second one in a row where I've gone a little long. This deck is not particularly complicated, but because we're talking about the same cards twice, because a lot of the same cards doing two different things, I guess that's why time got away from me this time. So with that in mind, I'll talk to you all again next time. Bye for now.